Hi, this is Denise from Denise in Wonderland, a magical journey of faith through Christ. Today, we will sink deeper into God's Word and His truth. We have to chase the presence of God, and we can do so through His Word. Let's get started. Genesis chapter 27. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau, his elder son, and said to him, "My son." He said to him, "Here I am." He said, "See, now I am old. I don't know the day of my death. Now therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and take me venison. Make me savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat it, and that my soul may bless you before I die." Rebekah heard when Isaac spoke to Esau his son. Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, "Behold, I heard your father speak to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savory food, that I may eat and bless you before Yahweh before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command you. Go now to the flock and get me from there 2 good young goats. I will make them savory food for your father, such as he loves. You shall bring it to your father, that he may eat, so that he may bless you before his death." Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. What if my father touches me? I will seem to him as a deceiver, and I would bring a curse on myself and not a blessing." His mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go get them for me." He went and got them and brought them to his mother. His mother made savory food such as his father loved. Rebekah took the good clothes of Esau, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. She put the skins of the young goats on his hands and on the smooth of his neck. She gave the savory food and the bread, which she had prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob. He came to his father and said, "My father?" He said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done what you have asked me to do. Please arise, sit, and eat of my venison, that your soul may bless me." Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" He said, "Because Yahweh, your God, gave me success." Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not." Jacob went near to Isaac his father. He felt him and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He didn't recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother, Esau's hands. So he blessed him. He said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He said, "I am." He said, "Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless you." He brought it near to him, and he ate. He brought him wine, and he drank. His father Isaac said to him, "Come near now and kiss me, my son." He came near and kissed him. He smelled the smell of his clothing and blessed him and said, "Behold, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which Yahweh has blessed. God give you of the dew of the sky, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and new wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers. Let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you. Blessed be everyone who blesses you." As soon as Isaac had finished the blessing, as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had just gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He also made savory food and brought it to his father. He said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that your soul may bless me." Isaac his father said to him, "Who are you?" He said, "I am your son, your firstborn Esau." Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who then is he who has taken venison and brought it to me, and I've eaten of all before you came, and have blessed him? Yes, he will be blessed." When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceeding great and bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me, even me also, my father." He said, "Your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing." He said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright. See, now he has taken away my blessing." He said, "Haven't you reserved a blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "Behold, I have made him your lord, and all his brothers I have given to him for servants. I have sustained him with grain and new wine. What then will I do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father." Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Isaac his father answered him, "Behold, of the fatness of the earth will be your dwelling, and of the dew of the sky from above. By your sword will you live, and you will serve your brother. It will happen when you will break loose, that you shall shake his yoke from off your neck." Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." The words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. She sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, "Behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother in Haran. Stay with him a few days until your brother's fury turns away. Um, until your brother's anger turn away from you and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and get you from there. Why should I be bereaved of you both in one day?" Rebekah said to Isaac, "I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Het. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Het, such as these, of the daughters of the land, what good will my life do me?" All right. So we have the infamous scene between Jacob and Rebecca and Isaac. So what we have happen is for Isaac, as he's gotten old, his vision is is practically almost gone, and as he's nearing the end of his life, he wants to bestow a blessing upon his firstborn, Esau. Now, one question that I even had, I was like, well, why is he bestowing this particular blessing? Because God himself, surely, Isaac is aware of the blessing that, or the plans that Yahweh had said during Rebecca's pregnancy, when she had asked what was going on between the two, because she was wondering why the pregnancy was so hard. And then God explained that Jacob, who's named aptly, it means supplanter, he's going to supplant the eldest son. But remember, when the sons were born, Isaac preferred the eldest twin, Esau, and Rebecca preferred the youngest. So I feel, as I was reading this, I feel like because he was about to die, he was like, he just wanted to ensure that his favorite got the got the birthright, got the blessing. And he was going to try to turn things around, but it ended up not working out because of the deception. And again, I'm not advocating for the deception, because we're going to see how this deception causes lots of problems for Jacob as well as his children later on. So what ends up happening is Rebecca overhears this, and she approaches her son, and she's like, her son, who's her favorite, who is Jacob, and she's like, "Your father's about to give up this blessing. We can't let him do it." And so she's like, "Let's go ahead and do it." And then the son's like, "Well, I don't know." He's like, "My brother's different from me, and if I get caught, I'm going to end up being cursed instead of blessed." And she's like, "Oh, no, no, no." I mean, she's like, "Well, even if there is a curse, I'll take it." And I feel like she says that because she just knows that she can pull one over on him. And it's good that the Bible lets us see this, even in these righteous families, these blessed families. It's good to see these moments, to see when people are not as honorable as they should be. And even though, see, God made it very clear that Jacob will be the one who would assume the birthright even before he was born. But even though God made these promises, it doesn't help us to try to make things happen using our timing. We saw this happen with Abraham, which is his grandfather. We saw this happen with Abraham, where he wants to have the son. So he's like, okay, well, I guess. And remember, we had Sarah who said, here, take my servant Hagar. So we have an example of a wife offering something and then, hey, in listening to the voice of this woman to do something that is not right. And that's one of the things we have to watch out for, is we have to figure out whose voice are we listening to. Even though Rebecca was his mother, Jacob, because he listened to his mother, he ended up having to, we will see this in chapters 28 through 29, Jacob will have to deal with the after effects of his actions that he did. Even though his mom convinced him, he's the one that's got to technically pay the ultimate price for this deception. And regardless, God doesn't need any of our assistance in making things happen. But we see here, man, time and time again, not waiting for God and instead trying to manipulate events to make things happen. But in the process, we may still get where we think God wanted us, but then we have some detours and we have some problems. We gain some enemies. And this is why we should let God deal with the timing and let God take care of it, because God is not involved in this. Now, God will use these events and rework them as he always does for their benefit. But even though God will rework things for our benefit, it does not always prevent us from experiencing some of the negative consequences of the path that we chose. Okay, so we see here, like I said, Jacob's going to be held accountable for this later, but this is not an honorable moment. And I want to remind you that even though we may think, oh, a little lie is a little lie, but we're seeing how, again, in each subsequent generation, even in the generations of the family that is blessed by God, we're seeing how the deception is occurring in different ways. We had Abraham lying about his wife being a sister. We had Isaac do the exact same thing. And now we're progressing to taking advantage of an elderly man who's going blind. So we're like, it's like some of the behavior is not acceptable. So this is a warning for us that we have to be cautious of the sins we allow to not just come into our lives, but to come into our family line. This is so important. Lineage is important. We can pass down blessings, but we can also pass down the other, because we all admit that God is passing down blessings. But what a lot of people don't talk about is that the people are passing down dishonorable behavior, and it takes on different shapes sometimes with each subsequent generation. But anyway, so like I said, poor Isaac, he's taken advantage of by not just his son, but also his wife. And we have to remember too that even though we may have people that are on our side, if you're surrounded by someone's voice who's encouraging you to do something that is dishonorable, you need to go ahead and just say, get away from me. Because as with Rebecca does not ultimately assume she does not experience the brunt of all of this deception later on. So it's very important that even though we may have people that love us, that want to stand up for us, we have to be cautious and say, okay, even though they're encouraging me, what does God think? And sometimes you've got to slow it down and say, hold up, because it's quite possible that even though people may mean well, it is not what God wants. And it may not be so deceptive like this, but sometimes the path that people think is okay, and they're like, yeah, that's the right thing. And it's the wrong path, because it's not the path that God has set before you. But let's go ahead and turn to verse 29. So let's talk a little bit more about the blessing, because he does end up with the blessing. And in verse 29, there it says, let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers. Let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you. Blessed be everyone who blesses you. So this curse be everyone who curses you. This is very similar to Genesis 12:3, where God says, hey, whoever curses you is going to be cursed. Whoever blesses you is going to be blessed. But then also we're seeing again that blessing being passed down. So even though unfortunately man is passing down some form of sin, but God is so great that he's passing down these great blessings with each generation, provided that we stay faithful to him. And then God also here is specifying kind of the order within the family. So that's why he says, you're going to be Lord over your brothers. So they will have to submit to your authority. You are the leader of this family. And then we have, and then after this blessing, shortly, I don't know how much time passes, we finally have Esau come back in. And then he finds out, oh gosh, it's like my brother has deceived you and I don't have a blessing. Excuse me. And then we have in verse, he starts crying. And then he says in verse 36, isn't he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright. Now Esau is lying right there. See, one of the things that's interesting about this is that Esau, he did not value his birthright when he was hungry. I mean, obviously he didn't value it, period, because he gave it up with a meal. Jacob did not deceive him. And he actually asked him twice because remember, I believe Jacob said something like, it's your birthright. And he said, oh, what good is it to me? he's like, it's not useful. Now he's having a fit. And see, this is what will sometimes happen is sometimes we don't recognize the blessings that we have and we may carelessly ignore them and just completely just forget about them. And it's only when certain things are gone that we then value it. And that's not a good thing. And that's what happens to Esau here. I still wonder if it still is that valuable to him, or is it just valuable because he lost it and he just wants it? So it's very interesting how he's so concerned now that he lost it when he wasn't that concerned about trying to get it back when he gave it up after his meal. It's almost like he's just angry. I think he's more angry at the deception than anything else. And if you think about it, this ties back into why this deception shouldn't have occurred, because now we're going to have strife between these 2 brothers. And towards verse 45, which is towards the end, we have Rebecca panicking because she doesn't want her sons to die because the son, Esau, is threatening the life of Jacob. And he's like, listen, when our dad dies, I'm going to kill him. And so Rebecca's upset. She's like, I don't want to lose both sons. But Rebecca started this. And now she does not like the results of the basically the seeds that she's planted. She doesn't like the harvest. And so this is a cautionary tale for us that we have to be careful in how we get the things that even things that we know that we deserve. Even when you know you're in the right, you can't go about doing it in the wrong way. We have to trust God and trust him, because remember, our God fights for us. He paves a way for us. I mean, he did it even for Rebecca when Isaac needed a wife. God went ahead of the servant and made sure that he put all these things in place so that Rebecca would come out when the servant was there, would offer the water. See, God, you don't have to do anything. If God has a plan for something for you, he will make sure that everything is laid out. God will roll out the red carpet for you, not to honor you. But what I mean is that he makes sure that he's going to make your way smooth. There are tons of scriptures about God making your path straight for you. Like God is the one that if there's snow in the road, he's literally out there with a shovel clearing it for you if that's the path he wants you to go on. So God does not need any of our help. And so what I want to leave you with today is be patient. Be patient with God, because sometimes God doesn't show us everything because he wants to build our faith in him. He wants to build patience in us. And sometimes, even though we may say, well, God said this was going to happen, but I haven't seen it yet. You have to remember these moments when Sarah finally had a child. She waited so long, but think about how much more valuable Isaac was to Sarah because she waited so long for him. So his smile meant so much more to her than it did if she had had him younger. And so you have to realize that God knows the right time in everything. He knows the appropriate season for everything. It's just like in the book of Job, we talked about how God even knows the timing on when animals are supposed to give birth. I mean, God has it down to details. So trust God with the details, because see, details I know they stress me out, but they can stress you out. And so let God deal with the details, because that way you can be certain that the route that you're on, that God's path is the right way, and you won't bring any baggage. See, the problem is when you try to do it your way, you start bringing baggage that you haven't, or creating baggage that you would have never had if you had did it God's way. So do it God's way and wait on the Lord. Have a good day. Bye.